Hey guys, it's me again, Eric here at Mountaintop 9. Yeah, I changed the name back to Mountaintop 9 because that's the name that people know this channel by. And I don't want to make it difficult for people when they see a video, or as it's going to be here for a while, I'm just going to do audio recordings. That's what's going to be easiest for me right now. But anyway, I want people to know what the channel is. That name has recognition, so I changed it back to Mountaintop 9. And yeah, guys, what I want to do is I just want to go back to talking about music that I love, movies that I love, those kind of things. I had a lot of life changing things happen in the last 3 years. It's been 3 years since I was on here doing content on a regular basis. I don't count the preaching things that I uploaded a year ago. I'm talking about what this channel always was. It has not been active in 3 years. And, what you guys got to understand is I want to say right now to people that did not understand why I deleted all of the content. I just want to tell you, I totally understand how that would have seemed rash to an outside party, to a person on the outside. I know that seemed very rash, but I just want you to know that at the time in my life, from about 2018, and it built to a crescendo up there, up into 2022, 2023. My life was a roller coaster, and I had a lot of heavy duty stuff go down, a lot of big things happen, a lot of life altering things, a lot of hard things I dealt with psychologically, spiritually as well. I came to realize that I was dealing with a lot of not just psychological things, not just a lot of trauma, but I was also dealing with spiritual matters as well, spiritual things that I was wrestling with. And, it all came to a head 3 years ago. And, I got saved. I believe there's a heaven. I believe there's a hell. I believe that we are all accountable before God. And the first thing that I wanted to do when I got saved, and it's just natural, if you care about people, I cared about the people. I do care about anyone who's ever listened to my channel or watched it. And, I just wanted to give them the gospel. That's what I wanted to do to my listeners, to my viewers. I wanted to say, hey, here's how you can have eternal life. Here's how you don't have to go to hell, because me personally, I believe it's way easier to just believe the Bible, to just believe God, than to just discount it. I don't think it's worth the risk, and it's so easy to get saved. All you got to do is believe the gospel. So I just wanted to share that with people. I didn't want anyone else going to hell. I felt like, hey, I had been on my way to hell my whole life, and here I just finally learned the truth, and I just wanted to share it with people. So that's what I did. But now, in hindsight, looking back, I realized that I went about it in a very extreme way. And what I mean by that is I totally deleted everything on my channel, and I just did everything so abrupt. And I realize now that to people who listen to me, people that watch me, that was extreme. I didn't do it in a balanced way. But that's why I've been talking to you guys here on this recording and trying to explain that if you had walked in my shoes, if you had been through what I'd been through and gone through the things I'd gone through, who knows how you would have reacted at the time, And I was just trying to do things in that moment to the best of the knowledge that I had. And now looking back 3 years later, I realize, hey, I could have handled certain things better. I could have done things in a more even-handed way. That way I didn't alienate people, like immediately just alienate certain people. Um, now that doesn't mean that I don't think some people were rude to me at the time, which just made it worse, because then when they were rude to me or said rude things to me, it just made me want to double down even more. You know what I mean? That's human nature. We are prideful creatures. Humans are very prideful. Pride is the very first sin. And, so, I doubled down when people attacked me, when I felt like people weren't being understanding of me. I doubled down and just became more very militant in how I was going about things as far as taking all the content down and everything. But I just want you to know that I'm back now. It's 3 years later. I'm much wiser. I'm much wiser than I was. Now, does that mean I'm a genius or anything? No. I'm not saying I'm a genius, guys. I'm not saying I don't have an inflated ego. I try to have a very even keeled estimation of my own self. But I do know that I am wiser than I was 3 years ago. I'm wiser than I was a year ago. As we go through life, we learn. We live and we learn, and I just want to use this channel and go back to talking about movies and music again. All right. Obviously, it's going to come. I'm going to have different takes and different perspectives on certain things now, but I think it'll be fun. And recently I'd been listening to this podcast I stumbled across called Into the Void, a Black Sabbath podcast. And anyway, that was a big motivator, another kick for me that really kicked me into gear and made me want to come back because, while I enjoy listening to that podcast, I would listen to them rip certain albums that I love, like The Ultimate Sin by Ozzy. That album's my absolute favorite Ozzy album. And man, they ripped that album apart. And that's my favorite Ozzy album. And all the while I was sitting there listening to their episode about that album, and I thought, oh man, I'd love to be a part of this dialogue. I'd like to be a part of the discussion here because I feel like I have so much to say about this kind of music. And same thing when they were reviewing like Headless Cross and the Tear album by Black Sabbath. Man, they were hard on those albums. And I just want to come back and talk about all the music I love and the albums I don't like as much, whatever. I want to get back in here and talk about Creepshow and talk about Tales from the Crypt and The Hitchhiker and just all that stuff that I love and I know you guys love. The only difference will be, I'm not going to be covering Danzig anymore. I'm not going to cover Merciful Fate. I'm not going to cover black metal bands. I don't want to cover things where their whole lyrical ideology is promoting Satanism. And it's all about lifting up Satanism. It's all about promoting, a Luciferian ideology. I'm not a part of that. I don't want to talk about that kind of music anymore. But that doesn't mean, the funny thing is I still listen to a ton of the same hard rock and metal that I always listen to. All right. I still listen to Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Dio. Just because I don't like satanic bands doesn't mean I don't listen to heavy bands still. I still love Death, for instance. Many people would consider Death, they're a death metal band, but are they satanic? No, they're not satanic. So, that's what I mean. I just want to get back and then as far as a video I made, and we'll get into this when we're talking about horror films as well. I made a video last year where I was talking about, that it is unhealthy to become obsessed, to have an unnatural obsession with like the violence in movies. If all you care about and all you're honing in for is like you're just zoning out on carnage and just all the blood and guts in a movie, I said, that can be a very unhealthy thing. And I still stand by that. If you're just obsessed with the violence in horror, because there's certain types of horror films, that are just absolute, that's all they are, is they're like violent pornography, like movies like those August Underground movies and guinea pig stuff. And, there's this one movie about necrophilia called Aftermath. And then there's Necromantic, I'm talking about that kind of stuff. You know, that's not the kind of stuff that I want to watch. You know, when I'm talking about horror movies I love, I mean stuff that makes an artistic statement. And yes, even stuff like Creepshow, that is an artistic statement. That movie is a beautiful, well-produced horror film, okay? But back on track, here's what's more important than carnage and blood and guts. What is the filmmaker trying to convey? What is the atmosphere? What is the message? What is the intent of the movie? All of those things mean more to me now than I had gotten into a headspace a few years back where I felt like my mind was just getting more and more vulgar and debased and just focusing on the wrong things. Now when I watch a horror movie, I like to discern what I'm watching. Like I said, I like to discern and think, what is the filmmaker trying to convey? What is the message of this film? What is the intent of this film? What is the force that's behind it? And so that's what you need to keep in mind. I still stand by what I said last year when I said, you know, you have to be careful with some of the things you watch, because once you watch them, you can never get them out of your mind. They're there forever. You know, the Bible says that the eye is the light of the body. Okay, so anything that goes through these eyes, it's in there. It's inside. Then you know you can't get it out. And there's certain movies I watched years ago that I wish that I'd never watched. And I just mentioned some of them a few minutes ago. You know, but anyway, guys, I hope that you will enjoy the recordings that I put forth. I hope you will like the new content. For a while, it'll just be listening format because I need to get a new camera at some point. But I think it'll be fun just talking and you guys can listen. I love listening to podcasts, and so I hope you guys enjoy this. And, you know, guys, I hope that any of you that are still around, I just I just want you to know that I'm glad you're still around. I'm glad that you're here listening to me and you didn't just jump ship and just leave when I was going through everything that I was going through, and when I made rash decisions like getting rid of every bit of content on the channel. I'm glad you guys stuck around because guess what? I'm back. You know, you never know what a day may bring forth. You just never know. And, you know, I would have never imagined a year ago that I'd be here and wanting to talk about music and movies again. But, you know, guys, life gets boring. It just gets boring. And here lately, I've just felt like I've been drifting. I've been drifting. And, you know, the bottom line is I'm trapped here on this earth right now, trapped here in this flesh. And one of the few things that gives me moments of comfort anymore is when I just drift away in my mind and think about better days. When I think about the days of the video store, when I think of innocent times, going and buying music and the first impression, certain movies and pieces of music made on me. And that's what I want to focus on here, is just going back and reliving some memories. And I hope you guys will enjoy doing that as well, listening to it and commenting. And I'm going to try to reply to comments better than I used to. And guys, I just thank you for listening to this recording, and I hope you like the content as I'm able to get it out. All right, guys, talk to you later.